in that era of your life and career, or going forward, what was your biggest challenge you think you had to overcome in that time?
Yeah, probably like anybody at that age, like nerves and anxiety, I think. They they can play havoc on you when you're younger.
Yeah.
If they go unchecked, they can really influence how you do things. You can miss out and not see opportunities that are in front of you because you've got this mist of anxiety that's in front of you. And I think everybody that's in that age, well, most people, not everybody maybe, but most people that sort of in their teenage years and in their, like, I'd argue even all the way up through your 20s, you're gonna feel that at certain points. And I think, yeah, going into what I've done for a career, or I'm doing for a career, at times, especially in those early days, it felt like, a little bit of an imposter syndrome. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
pinch, there's that pinch yourself moment because you're there doing this stuff, but there's also that I'm here doing this stuff. Am I good enough to be doing this stuff?
Yeah.
Because I didn't go to university and study it. Everything that I picked up really via life lessons, I guess. I had some really good mentors around me. I think that's one of the things that I've really taken a lot from in life. In my career, a lot of the people that I've been surrounded by have actually been really good people. They've given me good advice. I've listened. I think that's, listen a lot. Work hard, listen hard, and learn hard. And all of those things, it's a bit of a cheesy thing to say, but it's almost like the university of life. And that stuff is invaluable.
Yeah, because you can learn from anyone along your path.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit to unpack there as well. I think it's worth revisiting that. Yeah, it's okay not to have it all worked out like straight away.
No,
and sort of feel your
absolutely
way
not.
through it. But if you're following your heart and head together as much as you
Sure.
can, that'll help. And it's okay to feel that sort of anxiety a little bit as well. If you're feel a little bit of that, but kind of try and push through that a little bit as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was going to say as well, if there's, say, a person listening to this and they're like, oh, I really wish I could take a bit more action on this. I want to do something about my own career a bit more in that. Is there any, even, I think somebody's breaking out to one thing they could do once they switch this podcast off or stop listening to this. One action that is a good first step to take to sort of follow their sort of, and I'm imagining this listener is probably wanting to be involved in the music industry more.
Yeah. I think having goals is cool. Sometimes it's not seen cool to write down your goals of where you want to get to. But do it, because then it's in front of you. You can see it and you can make a plan to get there. Goals are quite often things in the distance. It's like one of those questions you actually get in interviews, like when you go out and do interviews. I think I've had it in almost every interview I've ever had. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? That's a big question.
That is
right?
actually,
It's
that's half a decade.
it's it's a huge chunk of time. It's when you think about from 1 year to the next, a lot can happen within those years. So to see where you're going to be in 5 years' time is a big thing. But if you know where you want to be, and you know it's going to take time, and appreciate that it takes time, don't try and get there straight away. Take on those lessons. Listen to people that are in that industry already, or that they've kind of followed that path that you want to take. Listen to them. Take their advice on board. It's usually the right way, because they're there. They can impart that to you. But
So after listening to this, set of goals, just like actually write them down or type them out or something like that.
Absolutely.
And then and rather than taking advice from anyone, take advice from people who are doing what you want to be doing. That makes sense, because then you're sort of, they can show you a bit of a path. And I guess in person meeting them is good, but like listening to stuff like this or on YouTube, like researching people who are like, I want to do what they're doing, and watching interviews with them, that can help as well.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think it's always down, I think I mentioned this right at the start when we started chatting about my job. It's like 20% of it's this fun stuff, but then you've got this 80% of time that you spend researching, preparing and building them foundations. Because if you've got that stuff done, The rest of the stuff, it becomes second nature. It becomes easy, and you're fully prepared for every situation that you walk into then, or as best prepared as you can be.
Absolutely. So I wanted to fast forward a little bit in this story and just find out like a little mini story, I guess. How did your first chance at working at Fender come about?
It was so I'd. It was through an agency. I joined a recruitment agency that dealt primarily in music, media, and arts. And then I just waited my time. Agencies will send stuff through to you, and the job at Fender came up. I'd already written to Fender myself a couple of times.
Cool. Also, not just once, a couple of times. That's a good lesson as well.
Yeah, be persistent.
Yeah, be persistent over time. Yeah.
So when they contacted me and said there's a position that's come up, and it was a very junior position within the marketing team there, and I just read up everything that I could. As soon as that came up, I was like, yes, that's it. I mean, I was obsessed with guitar. I was obsessed with music. I'd been in bands. I'd released records on independent labels, done all of this stuff, and that was kind of not finished. I was still doing it, but it wasn't as important as it once was, and I really wanted a career in a company like Fender.
Yeah.
So I got the interview, and I studied like hell for it. I read absolutely everything I could find out about that company. It was for the marketing team. So I looked at what their marketing campaigns were for the last 5 years and noted everything about them, what I thought was cool and what I thought maybe wasn't so cool, all of these things to make sure that when I went in there wasn't a single question they were going to ask me that I didn't have an answer for, and hopefully give them some ideas of where I think they should be going.
Yeah.
So
also not being afraid to share your ideas
no,
as well. That's cool. Yeah. Because that is a bit nerve-wracking, I guess, but that's cool. You're at a point where you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable to share a bit of that. Yeah.
But again, I think when you prepare for things and if you know what you're talking about, then you do gain a level of confidence to be able to do that. I think it's knowing the audience or knowing the room, reading the room.
I've got a few sayings I love in preparation, and the 4 Ps: preparation prevents poor performance.
100%.
And fail to prepare, prepare to fail is good as well. But being musicians, we should all know that as well, like rehearsing. Anyone who's done a gig without rehearsing enough will know what it feels like
100%.
not to prepare. We've all been there as well,
100%.
Right? That's cool. And then how's the job developed over the years you've been at Fender? So started at that junior position. How has that developed? And also, has there been ways Fender's sort of marketed itself changed over the years as well?
Yeah, I think it's constantly evolving there. So, yeah, I started at it was a very junior position there. I mentioned it before. I worked hard, I listened hard, I watched hard. I really took on everything. And if anything kind of came up, I made sure I was there, whether it involved me or not. It could just be to sweep up after they'd finished, but it was to watch what was going on, seeing how these things are done. I didn't study media production. I didn't study filming. All of that stuff was new to me, but I was hungry for it. And it, these opportunities, as I say, you can create a fair bit of your own luck. And I think by showing willing and throwing yourself into it, I wanted to be there. I wanted to see what was going on. So I made sure I was there and pitched in. And I think they saw something in me. They must have done. I've been there 15 years. But I had good mentors there. I've worked with some really good people. And I think they saw something rough and unpolished, and they imparted a lot of wisdom on me and made sure that I was there along for the ride as well. And just, as I say, it's a company has gone through, I think any company that's successful is continually evolving and continually changing and continually pushing boundaries. And by the nature of what we do and the artists that we work with, that's an ever-changing landscape. What was popular 15 years ago is completely different to what's popular now. So you have to be able to adapt and work with the talent that's in front of you and be open to what they're doing and appreciate what they're doing and platform it correctly. So I think just being on that journey and taking those opportunities as they've come up, working with these artists and really getting a lot back from them as well. I haven't really mentioned that side of it yet, but these people they're at the pinnacle of creativity, right?
Yeah.
They're, a lot of them are world famous people that really are at the top of their game. And working with those guys and seeing how they do things and how their team operates as well, that's a whole other scape to kind of watch and learn from.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I'm going to be coming up to my ending question soon, so I thought I'd throw out to our live audience. Now's the time to start thinking if you got any questions you want to be asking David from Fender. But whilst you're thinking, I've got a few questions I'd quite like to ask to give these guys a chance to think of theirs. So, is there any advice you'd give your younger self if you had, say, for example, the Back to the Future car and could drive back in time and give yourself some advice?
Yeah, I think it probably stems back to that anxiety and nerves thing. And a lot of that stemmed on what you think people are thinking of you. And I just don't get hung up on that stuff at all because it's really not important in any way, shape, or form. Just believe and trust in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And it's good because, like, yeah, it is easy to get hung up of what do they think of me? What do they
Yep.
think of me? And quite often the person's not thinking of you. They're thinking of their own things.
Exactly
Yeah.
that.
Like quite often the person's not. So like don't worry about it as much. Not as in like they don't care about you, but they're just wrapped up in their own things. So yeah,
Sure.
it's something that's great not
Just
to
be
worry
true
about
to
too much.
yourself.
Yeah. And where do you see the future of the industry going in the guitar world and I guess amplifier world and they make pedals and all sorts of stuff? And what do you see coming up in the industry that you can imagine coming up?
Well, first off, I think one thing I hear regularly is that you read regularly is that guitar music's dead or guitar music's dying. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in the last 15, 20 years. It's one of the most idiotic statements I think I've ever heard. There is always, always somebody out there you might not know who they are yet, but they are doing something that's going to change your perception of what can be done with those instruments, like we said at the start. I've had artists that have come in the past, maybe like not known to be guitar players. I'm sure she won't mind me saying. Little Sims came in around the time she was recording Grey Area, and she was talking to me about she had a desire to bring in a more analog element to it. She wanted to explore analog sounds and guitars and basses were one of the avenues that she was thinking. So we gave her a couple of instruments. And I didn't really think much more of it. But 6 months later, the first track from that album dropped. I think it was A Fence. And it starts with this bass line. And it's just like, oh, wow.
Cool.
Okay. I've not heard anybody in that space, in that genre of music that she's doing, coming out with something like that. She's continually evolved, but working with people like that, as I say, you hear this often. It's this genre of music that's going to be the future. Then they always seem to loop back to it. They always bring these elements into it because there's such a sonic palette. There's so much you can do with it that's been done or not been done. You're talking about pedals there. They're constantly evolving. A lot of electric guitar equipment can be viewed as quite antiquated. Like prized amps are based on valve technology, which is ancient. It's I think there's only 3 places in the world left that make the valves that go into amps. It's Russia, it's China, and Slovakia. But the technology now that we're utilizing to create these things like the Tone Master Pro, they're game changers. I think a lot of older guitar players have been skeptical about this stuff, I think because it was done so badly previously. I'm seeing them change their minds on that. So that's a whole nother avenue that's just about to open up or is opening up or people are doing stuff with already. And it's, I'm really interested in seeing what happens with that stuff. It's, as I say, creative people will always be creative and they will always find a way with the tools that they've got to their hands to do something amazing with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think it's a great chance to throw open some audience questions. If anyone's, I know we've got some guitar players in here, loads of musicians, people interested in music business as well. Have we got any questions from the audience today? Okay, so we got one. Any more? Just so I can time it. How many we're gonna have? Couple from Lily. Anyone else? So, Owen, do you want to go with your question?
Hi, David. When did you actually start working for Fender then?
I started working for Fender I think it was 2011. So yeah, 14 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
14 years ago.
congratulations.
I
That's
know, right?
exciting.
21 by Dell? Wow.
Cool. And we've got Lily, quite often has helped me on these podcasts and always has.
Hi, Lily.
It's become a feature, Lily's last two questions. So,
It's always the thing that we have in every podcast. So, if you could pick one guitar that you would give to any kind of artist, if it could be one of your favourite guitars, which one would it be?
It's a good question. I think so much of it depends on what they do and how they do it. So the guitars that we make, all of them have quite different features. And it would really depend, because this is something that we get a lot. You know, an artist will come in and maybe they've played a Telecaster for 2 or 3 albums, but then for their next album, they want to do something completely different, and they don't necessarily know what it is that they're looking for yet. So we will sit down with them, we will show them all the different options. We've got a really nice showroom in London, as you could imagine. We've got an amp room there, and we can take them in there and literally go, try this, what is it that you're doing? And we can go through the different options until they're like, this feels right. And as I say, it's great to hear that. I think we were talking about
Yeah.
you know, Little Sims earlier on, and then when you hear that music come out and it's a leap forward to what they've done in the past. So I think it would be, in answer to your question, it would be what's right. It wouldn't be, we need to just put this guitar with that person. It needs to fit, and it needs to be a tool for them that they're actually going to enjoy and get the most out of using.
And my last question is like how you explained about some of the artists that you collaborated with or helped with. If there could be some other artists that you want to bring in, who would it be?
oh, that's a
It's
great
a good question again.
Yeah, like newbies that aren't there yet, but you kind of like, oh, I like their music, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of what we do is looking at who's going to be the legends of tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
We have this program, Fender Next. I mentioned it earlier on. That's a platform where we're always looking to integrate emerging artists into, and it would be the ones that we can see a long-term plan with. It's they might be the signature artists of tomorrow, because
I've got a follow-up question with that then. So what kind of, you mentioned long-term, what am I trying to say here? If you've got a band or an artist,
Yeah.
what kind of features are you looking for? Or what kind of personality traits or things are you looking for? So maybe if there's someone listening and they're like wanting to be in a band, they want to, dream eventually getting sponsored by Fender. Fender Next, what are you looking for from the Fender Next ones, which is the first stepping stone?
I think originality,
Yeah.
and that's one of the hardest things I think to achieve as a musician. But something that they've got that I'm not seeing somebody else do. I mean, it's not the case for everyone. Like sometimes it just might be that they're a really great artist and they're a big platform. There's no greater advert for Fender as a company than working with an extremely visible artist. And we build great relationships with those guys. But I think for when we're looking out on someone new, because it's very hard for them to cut through the noise, it's an extremely competitive field. There's so many great bands out there as well. It's just almost, how do you get through that entire
Is
list?
it things like consistency, like you see what they've done already a little bit as well?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, I think it's it can just be, it's just something.
Okay.
It's hard to actually put a pinpoint
yeah.
on it, actually.
Do you ever have arguments in the team about it then? Like, I feel that, but you don't, like, no, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or debates rather than
I-
arguments, yeah.
I don't know if there's been some arguments. I think, yeah, I think especially when we get round to doing like these big campaigns, sometimes we can all have very strong opinions about who we think's the most authentic bit for that campaign.
yeah.
So, but we always get there, and we always,
Yeah.
I think we'll always settle on the best.
That's
We're like,
cool.
that's the right artist for that particular campaign or series of instruments.
Yeah, amazing. And great questions from the audience. Any other questions from our live audience today? No, well, hopefully David might be able to hang around for like 5-10 minutes at the end if anyone does want to
Yeah,
chat
for
a little
sure.
bit. But I was going to ask, is there any, I know some of these might be a bit secret, so you'd have to give details, but is there any projects that are coming up that you're quite excited or maybe would like to get involved with in the future more? Whether it's filming or anything like that, but I know you can't always give specifics.
Yeah, I mean,
Specifics.
I've got some things that are in the pipeline with what I'm doing specifically that I think if I'd have told my 10-year-old self, like artists I'm going to be working with,
Yeah.
that I'm going to be doing something fairly significant with, then yeah, I mean, these are they're the dream moments with what I do, and I've got a few of them lined up. I wish I could say who they are, but you'll all know in a year or two when
So
when
essentially
these things are out.
creating some cool stuff with artists you loved when you were at school.
Exactly.
Or
People
younger.
that inspired me to pick up a guitar, basically. So,
That is
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Full
Amazing.
circle moment.
Well, that sounds well. We're excited to keep an eye on Fender's YouTube and channels to see what that comes about. And obviously, there's loads of great stuff on there already. We'll put a link in the notes as well to some of the stuff we talked about as well. But guys, I want to give a round of applause to David. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks ever so much.
Thanks.